Good afternoon. Oh, it's a little loud. Welcome to today's Sports Pavilion meeting for the month of February. At least I think that's where I am between all the other meetings. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum with a full committee. I'd like to welcome back Ron Ryman to the committee. Thank you. And we'll move on to 2.01 for the minutes from January. If there are no corrections or changes, they will stand as written. Good. Karen, they're stand as written. Thank you. And with that, we'll roll right into. Before I go any further, let me take care of a couple of little housekeeping issues. For the committee, you'll notice you have two handouts in front of you. One is 4.05 that we'll be covering when we get to that. It's for the survey. The other one is a new roster for the committee. That is for your eyes only, not to be shared with the public. Okay, so with that, we'll move into 3.01 with the Sports Pavilion manager, Barry Hardesty, and his reports. Welcome, Barry.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here. Okay, for the month of January 24 compared to January 23, our league bowling was up $10,318. Our open bowling was down $472. Our miscellaneous revenue was up $96. And our total bowling revenue was up $9,942. So we had a pretty good month. Food and beverage was up $1,529. Non-income, non-res bowling revenue, it was down $937. Our grand total bowling revenue, we were up $10,534. Lineage was almost flat. We were up 15 games. And the Lizard Acres pub was up $2,014. So everybody did well. Any questions?
Super, great, thanks, Barry. I just have one question on the miscellaneous non-bowling revenue.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea the
Well, that's where
937?
that's where we throw locker fees and stuff like that in there. So it depends on when they pay. We have really no control over that.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. Any other questions for Barry from the committee? Okay. With that, we'll move into 3.02 for the financial review with Cliff Swan. Welcome, Cliff.
Hi, thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to go over the December year-to-date financial results in the Sports Pavilion. So taking a look at the December year-to-date budget versus actual in the Sports Pavilion, we're running a little behind on bowling revenue, and we know we've been chasing a little bit because of the closure in August and dipped into September a little longer than we anticipated. So we're kind of chasing a little bit in the budget because we had created the budget and didn't, at the time we created the budget, we didn't realize that the Sports Pavilion would be closed so long. We moved the additional revenue that was supposed to be generated in those closure months, we spread that out into December. And so, we're still trying to recover that, but we anticipate that we will recover it by the end of the year. So that's why they're showing a variance for the year-to-date revenue in bowling and ancillary. The restaurant was closed as well, so we didn't have rental income, and then there's the shoe rental and the lockers and all those other things that roll into that are causing that variance. On the expense side, $35,000 favorable. We have some open positions that we recently filled in that area, but also the closure created a positive variance in wages and benefits. Total overall 13,000 favorable December year to date. Looking versus prior year, 2,000 favorable. Keep in mind we implemented a couple increases in bowling, so even though the closure was there, we're still running ahead of prior year because of those increases. And then budgeted for wages and benefits, 19,000 unfavorable, but total unfavorable of 7,000. The positive variance in supplies and equipment are bowling pins that we had purchased in FY23 that we didn't purchase in FY24. Overall, 5,000 unfavorable to prior year. Again, we should make that up moving forward. We anticipate that we'll be making that up. Looking at the bowling revenue in total, we talked about this last month. Open bowling has suffered a little bit because of some of the changes that we made on the league side. Some of those changes impacted our open bowling because some of the people that were here bowling in those leagues would come and practice bowling in between their league time. And some of those people did not come back, so we lost that open bowling revenue when that happened. But overall, we're still doing okay. Leagues are up 14,000 in revenue, and we mostly made that up between that and the controlled neighborhood play cards. 8,200 less lines compared to prior year, reflected in the bowling revenue. But again, hopefully make that up. I think we'll make a big chunk of that up here coming up in the busy season. And that concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you, Cliff. Any questions for Cliff from the committee? And any questions from the audience for Cliff? Of course.
When I say end of year, I always talk fiscal.
Fiscal.
But yes. Yep.
Perfect. Great, thanks. And I do have one question, Cliff. I know
Yes.
you addressed it, an answer to it on page 8, but on to the negative 22,000, but we were closed longer than anticipated. But do you have an estimate, like how many weeks, or did we roll into?
I believe did we go 3 weeks into February? I'm sorry, February. 3 additional weeks into September.
Okay, thank you. I
That-
couldn't
that we
remember if it was
didn't.
3 or 4 weeks
Yes.
that we were closed, more than we
Yeah.
had anticipated, and I knew that really was impacting these numbers. So thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Super. And then with that, we'll go into 4.01 with the Lizard Acres update. And that'll be Carl Wilhelm.
Thank you, Director Vines, committee. You know, I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but I don't have a lot to update on Lizard Acres. We are in the process of staying the course for all the planning and dollar discussions that you've heard previously. Kind of just keeping a feel for the temperature of how our committees are going overall for budget approval. So that's probably the most impactful reason that I'm just staying par, you know, not making any more big decisions or changes until we kind of get an idea what direction we're going. I believe this committee is positively wanting to move forward with the Lizard Acres Pub, but ultimately it is a governing board decision.
Right.
So now that we're getting a little closer to the governing board seeing the full financial plan, you know, then I can probably proceed with a little bit more work.
Okay, so I think then you'll get your answer as we get a couple more line items down.
I would like to make a couple more comments though
Sure.
about it.
Absolutely.
Over the last few weeks, there's been a few questions about sound mitigation. The only plans that we have for the bar for sound is, we've changed the direction of the entertainment to be going towards the pool direction, if you will, the exterior wall of the building, instead of towards the builder's area like it is on a current Friday night.
Right.
And, some upgraded blinds, maybe to a fabric blind solution as opposed to the, adjustable blinds that we have now. And ultimately, that project includes a sound system upgrade, so that might help balance things a bit too. And then the other feature that we have included in our discussions, we're going to have a jukebox, which is an electronic iPad system at no cost to the rec centers. In fact, it probably generate us a few dollars per month. It'll give the community an opportunity on nights that we don't have entertainment to have a full jukebox selection that they can make choices right from their phone.
If I can, is that, Carl, one of the jukeboxes that takes like debit cards and,
Yes, it is.
okay, great, thank you. Perfect, I really like that. We were looking into that a few years ago, so I like that concept. Thanks so much.
Very good. And other than that, that would be all I've got to share for Lizard Acres update.
Great. Any questions regarding when will you be meeting with your design team again?
I would like to say probably end of April,
Okay.
begin those meetings back up.
Okay,
And as far as scheduling, if approved by the governing board, I'm going to say right now, we're probably tracking to make this a spring project of 2025 as opposed to a summer project of 2024. That's a possibility. It depends on other projects that get approved. If some of the projects that do get approved are larger than Lizard Acres, you know what the priority has to be for my summer busy month. So
right,
okay.
absolutely, got it.
So that I'll share that more as we get towards the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to do then is go ahead and move into 4.02. I've asked Carl we added these pictures, and they'll put it up for us. When the remodel was done with the ball returns and the lanes, and Carl did this presentation for us at the mid-year meeting, and it was such a great presentation. I wanted him to share it with the committee and the people who didn't make it to the mid-year meeting. And so if you will,
Thank
Carl.
you. It was a very successful project, and thanks to the cooperation of not only Barry's staff, Greg Moran, and the mechanics, but Brunswick met with us in advance of the project. And, when they were doing their pre-construction meetings, recognized that we had some variances in the lanes due to the old lanes still existing in areas that were not expected. So, that is the reason why we had that adjusted period of time of closure to make up for the big adjustments that it required to kind of stick with the plan of the new lanes and find the best cost solution without being a significant impact to the rec centers. The biggest impact was time. So we overcame those issues by following the plan, making some adjustments with Brunswick, and installed the new flooring. As you see in the photos here, in that project, we also had ball returns being replaced to brand new. And some of the results of projects, it affects other areas. The new flooring and how it lined up with the old LVT in the bowlers area. The best decision at that time was to remove all of the LVT where the benches sit and redo the flooring. All that impacted us was it moved a reserve study line item of bowlers area flooring up 1 year. And we were able to accomplish it at the same time as the lanes and the ball returns. During construction, we also had large, heavy, multiple tonnage worth of pallets coming in and out of the Sports Pavilion doors. And those doors are very limited in their access. So, 8 to 10 foot long pallets trying to go between, the zigzagging of our dual door system. That old carpet in those entries, the carpet moved. It was old in the first place. And we determined after the project to tear that out and replace all the lobby entries with new walk-off carpet. And a little damage occurred in front of the cafe, so we fixed that cafe LVT. So happy to say, though, that the Sports Pavilion has a successful project completed. If you want to go to the next slide. And so there's your new ball returns, new bowlers area flooring. We also solved some old problems from the building addition, of 20 years ago, where the floors were not exactly level from one building to the next. And we leveled that all out. If you go to the next slide, you'll see your entries. So I hope everybody's enjoying the Sports Pavilion. It was a good project, and move on to the next.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions for Carl regarding that presentation? Any questions from the audience for Carl? It really is, they did an outstanding job, and we appreciate that. So with that, we'll move into 4.04, which is, I think, something Carl has been waiting for to hear. Oh, I'm sorry, 403. Did I say 403? Oh, 403 it is. Okay.
Okay.
It's the fiscal year 2024-2025 capital budget. You'll notice in your packet, you have the entire budget proposal. This committee is only tasked with the Sports Pavilion Lizard Acres bar renovation. So if you would like to discuss anything before I do have a recommendation, we need to make a recommendation from this committee to move that forward to the governing board. So if you have any questions on that before I make that recommendation, now is the time. No? Wow.
The budget that's presented in front of you, though, is for your benefit as a member of the community to see that this is our entire capital budget.
Right.
And the little highlighted areas through the pages just show changes month by month that all other committees see the same document.
Okay. So the recommendation is the Sports Pavilion Bowling Committee recommends that the governing board approve the $225,000 Sports Pavilion Lizard Acres bar room renovation and equipment project as proposed in the fiscal year 2024-2025 capital budget. We just need consensus from the committee to move this forward. So for Karen's benefit, we just need a yes. We'll start with you, Gary.
Yes. And yes.
Great, thank you. Karen, unanimous. Great, thank you so much. Wonderful, thanks so much, Carl, great presentation. And with that, we'll move into 404. Barry, you're up with proposed new bowling rates.
Okay, we're proposing no increase in resident open bowling. We're currently at $3. We raised last year 20 cents, so we decided to stay put on that. Resident guests, we decided to stay at $4. Non-resident league bowler with a league card, $4. And we added a new category. It's a non-resident, non-league bowler guest, and that's at $4.50 a game. No increase in league fees. They stay at $9 and $8 after 8. Summer play league, $8, no increase. 3 games from the charter club, we're suggesting a 50-cent increase up to $7 from $6.50. And Wii Bowling, we're asking for a 50-cent increase in Wii Bowling from $2.50 to $3. And there's no increases in the controlled neighborhood play fees. That's the card to allow non-residents to bowl in our leagues at $30. and summer one at 15. Rental shoes stay the same at 2, and our annual locker fees, 20 for residents and 25 for non-residents. That stays the same. So that's what we're proposing for next year.
Great, thank you, Barry. Any questions from the committee for Barry on this? Oh, Cliff.
Since we're talking about budget,
Mm-hmm.
I figured I'd come up here.
I
So-
didn't even see you sneak up.
Yeah. So we are in the very beginning phases of our operating budget. We asked Barry to put this recommendation together. We sat down with him and with Barry and Greg and talked about next year, what that's looking like, what their operating budget's looking like. And roughly right now, we have about 32,000 in additional costs coming in the form of wage increases and just different things, operating things that we're going to do next year. And there's also some savings on the expense area there as well. So we'll have to budget to make up for that difference. And one of the things we've talked about are these increases, which will return some of that difference. But we've also talked about doing some additional tournaments to help offset that. So we are in the planning phases of that, and then the next Sports Pavilion committee meeting in March, we will present that budget to this committee.
That's great, thank you.
Yep.
Cliff, appreciate that. So now that we have a little more information,
Lisa, I do have questions.
okay, go ahead, Bob.
First question would be regarding the non-resident, non-league bowler. How many lines per year do we get of those? Or per month, whatever?
You know, it varies so much. It's not a major portion of our income. I would say maybe 1 or 2%. It's not a high number. But what we do see is it's increasing a little bit due to the high cost of Let It Roll and some of the other centers that are charging $7, $8 a game.
That was going to be my follow-up question. I wondered, did we benchmark several other area bowling centers? Because $450 seems very light compared to what the other bowling centers are. And going back to our discussions months and months ago, I'm a little bit concerned if we keep the rate too low, we're going to be attracting folks that don't want to bowl over at the surprise centers, as an example. They're both high-priced and lousy bowling alleys.
Yes.
Well,
Go ahead, Barry.
I mean, that could be a problem down the road, but it would be us to, monitor that. I'm afraid, though, if we go too high, that we won't get any guests at all. Sun City is actually lower than we are. They're at $825 for league, and they're at $275 for their residents. So we have to be careful of that too.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is our policies in the bowling alley are that if you're below the age of 45, that you have to be an accompanied guest of the community. So we don't have the risk of just random people showing up here. So our real benchmark is Sun City, for example. We have to pay close attention to their outside rates because that's really the crowd that we're going after. So we do pay attention to that. We are higher than them, and but we definitely monitor it. We monitor our outside bowling, but most of the outside bowling comes in the form of leagues.
The natural group that would be the non-resident outside bowlers, my opinion, would be the folks from Grand or Sun Village or some of the communities just a little bit west of here. But I'm, again, concerned that if we publicize the rates or they get to be too publicly known, we will start getting a lot more people from Surprise. And if that's the case, that's great, but then we ought to price it accordingly and enjoy the extra revenue. But
Yeah,
anyway.
great point. We definitely monitor that.
But the good news that we're so booked up with leagues, we have very little space for that type bowler, so that's the bright side.
Any additional questions?
I had one other comment. Cliff mentioned about how to increase revenue. And I just guess if I got this right, that you said you wanted to, or that you discussed additional tournaments being held at the facility, which means on the weekends, which basically takes away the time that the residents are currently using for their own personal enjoyment, and for those of us that are avid bowlers, our practice time. So I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, we'd have to balance that, but there's opportunities there that we would capitalize on tournaments.
We also said we would not do more than one per month. So it would take one day out of the month and designate some tournaments.
Barry, are we mostly talking about the USBC type, Metro Phoenix type tournaments? Or are we talking about CBE type tournaments?
CBE.
And as you know, the CBE tournaments do not cater to our age group in our area.
They have numerous senior events in that league, in Theo's organization, because they have a young crowd. They have that, then they have seniors up to 60, I think it is, and then above 60, they have another category.
So Cliff and Barry, next, in March for our next meeting, when you bring forward the proposal, if you will, on tournament play, is it going to include the data on the types of tournaments that you're talking about bringing forward? Or not just the numbers of tournaments, but the types of tournaments?
Yeah,
Oh,
we could
super.
we could bring
That would be really
Yeah.
helpful, so we would know exactly the demographic. Great.
Yep.
Super. Any additional comments? Any comments from the audience? Okay. Oh, here we go.
Chris Waller, 1405588.
Thanks, Chris.
Not a comment as much as a request for clarification. What's controlled neighborhood? That group controlled neighborhood play fees?
That's our, for a non-resident, they can purchase a card, and that allows them to bowl in our leagues. Because Sun City, they charge $1 a game, or $1 a night extra for non-residents, which is, it's an accounting nightmare. So they decided to make these cards. So it gives them the privilege of bowling in a league and paying the league fee of a resident.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of an old terminology though, because that's how CNP was in golf as well, and so it's the term really isn't used much anymore, but it still kind of lingers out there in some of these things that we do.
Well, if it works, I guess we won't change it. But okay, so moving on to 405, the Sports Pavilion Food Service Survey, which I suspect quite a few people are here for. So there was kind of a little bit of a hiccup on this survey. So we worked with our general services manager. Did I get that right, Katie, your title? Yeah. Okay, great. And Katie O'Grady. And she's been working on putting together an updated survey for us in SurveyMonkey so that we could then get this survey out to all of the residents, not just bowlers or anybody that might wander into the bowling alley. We wanted to be able to get this survey out to all of the residents. So committee members, you have the updated survey, and what we want to do is give Katie some feedback as far as what we would like to see, if anything, added to this. And what Katie is looking for, she's hoping that we could maybe give her the information and get this data put to bed today, because we want to get it into the March Rec Center news, and we're right on top of the deadline for that. So, anything else that I missed, Katie?
No, just to elaborate a little bit though, these were just questions I threw down from that original survey and some ideas, but they're by no means complete. So we would want your input on what specific questions you want, whether you want them to be multiple choice or whether they can only pick one choice, for example. If you want to have a requirement that they enter any personal information like a member ID or an email or anything like that, do you want to capture or do you not care that they're residents or not residents? And then as far as distribution of this, we can use a variety of formats. We can send it, it'd be a link, so we can send the link via email. We can put it in a printed publication. We can also create a QR code and put half sheets down at the Sports Pavilion that someone could scan on their phone and fill it out. So a variety of mechanisms depending on what you want to do. And then we would need a drop dead end date for when they have to have it filled out by, and then we'd collate those responses and get them back to you. So this is just a starting point, but like Lisa said, because the Rec Center news is way past deadline, if you want to get it in March's issue, we would need to get that story together with the link, pretty much to at least have the fact that we're going to do it and the link in the Rec Center news today.
Great. Thanks, Katie. So the first thing that I had that I think that one of the things I'm curious about is I think we need a like resident, non-resident designator. And from there, I think what I want to do is just start with you, Gary, and perhaps go down the line and just ask what your comments are and what you want to see, because I suspect that everybody's going to probably have a lot of the same.
I think this looks pretty good the way it is, actually. I don't really have anything other than what's on here that would be necessary.
Okay. And so the one question that I have is, I'm thinking that they should be able to check more than one box, right? You think, okay, great. So that's a question just because I know we're going to need consensus from the committee, so just great. All right, super. So then, Bob, you're up next.
Okay, to your question, resident versus non-resident, I don't know how we get the Survey Monkey out to non-residents unless it's something that goes in the paper and they're able to sign in and do it. That's great. What I'm hoping this survey accomplishes is some kind of a baseline for whatever the RFQ or bid for a restaurant supplier is going to be. And some of the considerations there that I'm thinking about are we going to just have a restaurant that serves food and people come in and eat like the previous deal? Or, and my preference would be, and most of the bowlers that I know and lounge residents would be to have some kind of a snack bar where you would have a number of the things that are listed under number 6. But if that isn't going to be accomplished through the restaurant, then we need to reserve the right to do that in-house, either by having some snacks available in the Lizard Pub or behind the counter or wherever. The other thing I'd like to see considered, and I don't know that it goes with the survey, but it would go with the RFQ, would be some delivery to the lanes or to the lounge. Right now, or the way it worked in Mimo's, if you wanted something, you walked down to the restaurant, ordered it, and then you go back and bowl, and then you hope that your food's done, and you walk back down to the restaurant and see if it's done, and you're back and forth, and it's disruptive to the bowling process. Whereas in places I bowled in other communities, if you ordered something from the restaurant, they actually delivered it to the lane, and usually be a tip involved or something for the delivery person. Another area I'd like to consider in this thing is a restaurant's fine, and the restaurant's going to have finite hours, and they're not going to be open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night when we close. However, our leagues don't finish usually before that restaurant was closing. And so when a league finishes and they go into the lounge to enjoy a few beverages and they want to have a snack, there's nothing available. Maybe the restaurant could be split in a way that you'd have a snack bar or some 1 or 2 person leftover type personnel that could still service the bar after hours, after the restaurant close hours, not after the bowling close hours. But I think that would be very preferable to the bowlers. Anyway, to me, the other thing is we've got a number of different groups that are availing themselves to this. You have the billiards folks, you have the Wii bowling folks, you have the bowling folks, you have the Lizard Pub folks, you have the residents that want to come in and eat. I think it'd be important to capture which of those areas, what perspective they're coming from on those areas, because it's significantly different in a lot of cases. That's all I have for now, Lisa.
Great, thanks, Bob. And that definitely, the area designator was certainly one of the ones that we had talked about, and I think I forgot to pass that on to you, Katie. So what location, of the Sports Pavilion they were coming from. So that's one. A lot of the items you talked about are items that I think would be discussed, as they go in line with the, like the RFQ, and I think that's something we would have to talk to the GM about. And I did have a brief conversation before the meeting with the GM, and he is going to start, I think, in the next week, maybe. They're going to be doing an interview process with the 3 people that responded with their bids. And he did ask for a couple of names of people from the committee to be involved in that. So I gave him your name, Bob. So that's, I know you have really good ideas there, and that's really good. So Denise.
The same thing I had along the line of having service, like go up, purchase your food, pay for it then, and then have somebody, either a number or somebody bring the food to you. One of the items that I would eliminate on line 6, the nicer sit-down fare. You don't have the room, and not for nothing, who's gonna come to a bowling alley to go for a nice dinner, you know what I mean? To me, it's something more to grab food, or a small benches like that's in there now. That's it.
Great, thanks, Denise. Terry, did you have anything?
No, I thought the survey was pretty good. Did you use it before? Would you support it if we do something? Okay, and then what kind of food would you like, and how much do you want to spend for it? So the other ones are good, lane service and snacks and so forth, all good. I'm happy.
Great, thanks, Terry. Jim?
on number 3, once a week, twice a week, 3 times or more a week, you know, I go out twice a week sometimes, and then some weeks I don't go out at all. So it's like kind of an ambiguous, it's like, I don't know, just sometimes, maybe put sometimes in.
Yeah, these were just throw down on paper, and
Yeah,
if you want it
that's-
replaced or removed, just tell me.
Oh, no, I think that, you know, it's nice to know, especially for someone coming in here that's going to run a restaurant. They would want this type of information. But, you know, somebody's gonna look at this and go like, well, hey, sometimes. Maybe sometimes. That's all I have.
Katie, I don't know if maybe instead of never, maybe seldom would work? Just a thought. And I think Ron is probably chomping at the bit to give us his comments, although I don't know, maybe Jim stole his comments, but Ron, welcome back, and let's hear what you've got. And please, don't forget to turn your mic on.
There we go. No, I was looking at this, and I think just some of the terminology, and it kind of leaves you with, I don't know how to answer the question. You know, I mean, like when you go to, like Jim was talking about, when you look at 3, for instance, I go to restaurants maybe, you know, a couple times a month, or maybe 3 times a month, or sometimes never, you know. It's hard to say 1, twice, 3 times, or whatever. I think it just needs sometimes in there, like we thought about. That is one thing that would be important. And I don't think, I mean, the rest of what everybody else has said, I agree with that. I don't see a big issue with it. I do see that if you're gonna have a restaurant there where Nemo's is, and you're gonna have food available for people, again, it needs to get to them somehow. Because when it was Nemo's open before, and you went in there, you had to, as said, you had to go up there, stand in line, put your order in, go back, and then you had to go back later and hope it was ready for you by the time you did it. There's some flow that has to be made to work that out. Other than that, I think it's a good idea to do this, because it's going to help whoever's going to come in there in the future to have some idea what's going on. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ron. Joe?
No questions, because they've all been covered. My personal opinion, if you're looking for the turnaround time or end of close of survey, I think 2 weeks is long enough once it's posted.
So 2 weeks after the rec center news comes out? So it might be 3 weeks if we hit
Correct.
e-news next week, okay.
Great. I think that's great. Paul?
I do have some comments. One thing I would like to know from Barry first, or if, you know, somebody else can answer the question. On the bowling console, there is a button for food service. Is that only available at the bowling counter, or can that be something that they can work from and answer?
Right now, no, they couldn't. It's not part of the purchase when we purchased the scoring. Can it be changed? I'm sure it could. It's just a programming change. So if he's willing to spend money to put a device in his restaurant that would read ours, yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, just a consideration. I think that would definitely help the people that are using the facilities to interact at it. So that I asked that just because it's a lead into where I'm at, and Bob touched on it, and we all have in some sense. To me, there's basically 3 parts to what we would like to have in a eating facility. A, the restaurant, which is pretty much what it is. B is a snack bar, which is what we'd like to have. And 3 would be a walk-up area. You know, if you're not going to come into the snack bar to sit down at the, let's say, the counter, which is what I consider the snack bar, you have a walk-up area, which should be by the cash register. I don't know if we could put in a port window there where you can walk up and make orders. I mean, I know, Carl, that would be, you know, additional work, but I'm just thinking something to think about that would probably speed things out, reduce the amount of traffic that's in Nemo's, or the new restaurant. It's always Nemo since I've been here, so. But that's what I'm looking at is 3 areas of business.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Carl, there's already a window there. Is there not, Carl? Right, okay. So it's just a matter of whoever.
I've never seen it used.
Can you clarify snack bar? Can you just clarify what snacks mean?
Well, I don't know, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, like, previously, I know Trish, previously, you could go to the window when she had it open. You could go there, you can order a drink, and you could order, when I was at Lizard Acres, I would go and I would order a sandwich or whatever. You could order right off the menu at the window. But you always had to come back and get it, yourself. So that was just, I don't think it's a matter of snack bar per se. I'm just, I think we're just saying, be able to order off the menu, but be able to use that
The
window.
term has been used a lot today, so
Yeah.
the difference between meals and snack bar, is that
Right.
is that an onion ring? Is that a
No,
french fry?
and I
or-
think that part of the discussion has to come from when you meet with the person and interview, when you sit down, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, right? We can't get to that point until having the discussion to see what the menu is going to be.
Bob, what did you define snack bar as?
Well, I mean, I don't know if
I'd
Bill's
like to
willing, I don't know if Bill, oops, we can only have one mic on at a time, otherwise we get that. Oh, okay, but I just wanted to ask Bill this question really quick. I don't know if he's willing to go out on a limb as far as who is actually bidding, but I know one of the people bidding, you could actually kind of throw him into a snack bar type, I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
right?
Director Vines and members of the committee, good afternoon. I don't want to go out and publicly say of the 3 candidates currently bidding for appropriate reasons, but anyway, we did pass out 9 RFPs and 3 did respond. And so we are interviewing all 3 of those, and I'll get into that. But yeah, as far as that goes, a lot of questions are still being developed as we move forward into the interview process. Timing is everything. We're trying to get this thing moving quicker than we know how. I mean, we're trying to shoot for maybe a late March, early April reopening, and so that's kind of where we're at. But to answer specifically your question, where am I going? What was the question?
Snack bar type food, I guess, as opposed to sit-down meal food, is that what you're talking about, Bob?
Yeah, to answer the question, snack bar versus restaurant. The restaurant, you go in, you sit down, it's a restaurant. They bring a menu, you order some food, and you wait for your food to come, you pay for it, and it's a restaurant. Snack bar is a counter or an area, could be a window, where you walk up and the food is already there. It might be one of those hot dog machines that just turn the hot dogs and keep them warm. You may have some nachos there and pour a little cheese on them and hand it to them. You might have some pretzels hanging there. Real quick food that one person behind a counter can dispense over a snack bar. And it's just like that. It's not a half-hour wait to get your meal. That's what we're defining as a snack bar. Beyond the scope of this, kind of in between would be pizza. Everybody's always talking about after bowling, love to have some pizza. And I think on Friday nights, you guys actually order pizza in very frequently. If it was available there, we'd order it from the restaurant, but we have nothing like that because it's not even open. So anyway, the hours, the snack bar hours could be different than the restaurant hours. So forth.
Right. So very good. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback thus far as talking to these folks and scheduling interview times. So we are trying to talk about walkabouts so they can go about and look at the facilities, in depth. Trish still owns a lot of that, if not all of that kitchen equipment. So there's going to be some negotiation going on there. But to coordinate both the cafe and the pub is really what we're kind of after. So we're trying to hit exactly what you're saying. And so as we move forward during the interview process, that will all come out.
One thing I'd like to throw out for consideration is whether or not whoever gets the bid on the RFQ, whether or not we can distinguish, maybe the bowling alley could run a small snack bar. Just right after opening the Lizard Acre Pub, they were serving pretzels in there. They think they might have even had nachos at one point in time. Most bowling centers I've frequented, that's a pretty good revenue source for the bowling alley. And if you have a classical restaurant there, they're usually not too interested in operating a snack bar. But I could even give you names of a couple bowling alleys, and they'd tell you how much revenue they generate just from selling hot dogs.
Sure.
It was incredible how much money they made. Because almost every bowler came in, had to have a hot dog before the night was over. It just became the popular thing in that house. But
so if
what I'm trying to say is I hope we don't handcuff ourselves like we did with Mimo's to where we say, well, we can't serve anything because they have all rights to food service and we have none. Unless they agree to do the snack bar and provide the snacks that we are requesting.
Gotcha. Okay. Director Vines, if I may, I think you brought the subject up, and I think I saw Bob's hand go up, so I'm going to put you on like top of the list. But when and then Barry, I have an opportunity to talk to Barry yet, but we have put requests out for these folks to kind of move this thing along. We do have our first interview, which is Friday. I don't know if you're available, but if you could just write these down, if anybody wants to participate in assisting us on the interview process. Friday at 8 a.m. is one interview, and that will be followed the following week on Tuesday at noon, and then Tuesday at 2 p.m. And those interviews will all take place at Mimo's. And so we'll be interviewing there, so we can do it, like I said, a little walkabout. They can kind of see the storage facilities and everything we've got over there as far as kitchen equipment and conditions of the facility, so they can kind of make their decisions moving that way as we talk about exactly what you were saying.
I'm available all those times.
So if Lisa, can you just give me a couple of names, either at the end of this meeting or via email, and we'll add them to the list and we'll get everybody contacted. I appreciate that.
Bob, you have to bring hot dogs to the meeting.
I will. Great. I don't know who, was it? No, you. Okay, great. Are there any other questions? Well, yeah, well, good, that's good. I won't be there. And Barry, did you have anything that, now that we've kind of went around, I wanted to save you for last since you kind of heard everything, and did you have anything you wanted to throw in there?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Great. Any questions from the audience on this? Yeah. Oh. It'll be Bob and Joe Hoyer. Super.
And then can I just get one thing, number 7? Is that a per meal or per person or per kid?
Let me, Katie, Karen wants clarification on number 7. She's asking, is it per meal or per tab? I think it's probably per meal.
Whatever you guys want it to be.
Per person, correct? I'm going to say per person.
And are you good with those dollar amounts?
Yeah, I am. And committee? Are you good?
Okay.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it.
Katie, one more question for you. On number 6, can we add hot dogs, nachos, and pretzels?
Do you want that near pub type food, or do you want me to replace that or keep it on there
No,
as well?
that would be like the snack bar, pub type food.
Okay.
Not the restaurant. For the restaurant, to me, sets their own menu and determines what they are capable of delivering. But we, on the snack bar side, would like to have some specific snacks that, and those 3 would be.
Okay, so I'm leaving snacks and pub type food on there and quick grab and go on there, and I'm also adding hot dogs, nachos, and pretzels. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Wouldn't that be the same thing, quick grab and go would be
Grab and go could be a energy bar, it could be a bag of chips, it could be anything. You can't list everything, but
I'm
How about I
gonna-
do prepackaged food and then hot dogs, nachos, and pretzels? Does that work?
Yes, I think that's great,
Sure.
Katie.
Sure.
And I like that only because, Barry, I think, don't you sell some of that stuff at the counter? Right, so we don't want to list that here. So, and if you think it's redundant, then go ahead and boot one of them.
Okay. And
Okay.
you want all those distribution methods for this, including the half sheets down there, is that right?
I'm sorry, couldn't hear you, Bob. I need you guys not to talk, please.
You want it to go out in the rec news, the e-news, the website, the independent, and little half sheets down at the Sports Pavilion, is that right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please, thank you. Appreciate that, Katie, thank you so much. Okay, let me see where we are. Okay, that was quick and painless. So that brings us to committee comments. Gary? Oh, that's great, I'm happy to hear that. Happy Valentine's Day, y'all. Bob?
no comments.
Denise?
I'm good.
Paul? Wow, that's great. I'm happy to hear that. Any audience comments for today? Wow, this has been a really great meeting. Thank you so much. And we have no online comments. So thank you all for coming. And our next meeting is, no, it's okay, March 13th, 1:30,
That's why I'm-
right here in the lecture hall.
Other hand on this.
See you there. Bye.